Appreciative of everyone joining us here tonight in person, to our online audience as well. Thank you so much. We really appreciate people taking the time and the interest to be here for this important conversation. My name is Tim Horgan. I'm the Executive Director of the World Affairs Council of New Hampshire, a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that's dedicated to helping people better understand the world through conversations with experts, through international exchanges like we have here tonight, and through high school diplomacy simulations. As a nonprofit organization, we are supported by the community, and I want to thank all of our members and donors and sponsors for helping us to make sure that this work remains valuable and free and open to the public. We try our hardest to make sure as many things are as accessible as possible. We also are a nonpartisan organization, therefore any views, opinions expressed here tonight by the visitors, by the audience, is their views and not necessarily reflective of the World Affairs Council of New Hampshire, its board, its members, its staff, its sponsors, etc. We appreciate you all taking the time to be a part of this conversation. If you are interested in asking questions, you'll see if you're in the room with us, we only have 2 mics. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask if you can either scan the code on that TV screen. It'll take you to the Slido app. If you need to write down a question, you can pass it to Maheen and she can get it in the queue as well. That'll just help us stay on track, avoid the life stories of people who I know we all get annoyed with when it takes 15 minutes before they get to their question. It happens. So I appreciate your questions. We'll get to them in about half an hour. But we have a short video that the group put together for you that we're going to start with. If you're watching online, there is a link on our website that will allow you to see and hear this a little bit better than just watching it this way. But Anise, whenever you're ready, you can get it started.
Ukraine is a European country with great potential, but today our cities and villages are under constant threat from missiles and drones. We are fighting not only for our state, we are fighting for a future where the rule of might does not replace the right of law. Every day Russia attacks civilian infrastructure, energy, transport, residential areas. Shells landed near the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, the largest in Europe. Every day each of us is targeted for death. Every strike on infrastructure means a hospital without electricity, a school without heating, a family in darkness. Ukraine does not give up. We are restoring our energy sector, investing in new storage systems to withstand the winter. Our soldiers hold the line and strike back at the aggressor's military and fuel infrastructure. Our people are millions of volunteers, doctors, rescuers who save lives every single day. But our resilience is impossible without partnership. We need modern air defense and counter-drone systems to protect people, financial support to preserve social services and stability, restoration of critical infrastructure to prevent a humanitarian disaster this winter. This is not only aid to Ukraine, this is an investment in a world without nuclear catastrophes, a world where an aggressor cannot destroy neighbors with impunity. Ukraine is the outpost of freedom. We will never surrender, but victory is only possible together with our allies. We thank you for your support and faith. Together we can stop the war and build a peaceful and just world.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that. We'll pull the screen up, and then Anise, if you want to turn that off. And if we want to pull the chairs a little closer, to just move them towards the center. Make it a little more comfortable. Okay, so and sorry if our mics keep going in and out. They are a bit old, so we'll do our best. But of course, for everyone here, I'm sure we are aware that the war between Ukraine and Russia has been going on actually all the way back from 2014 with the invasion and annexation of Crimea and the if you'll recall the term, the little green men who were streaming across the border and were not wearing insignias, were not making it clear where they were coming from. So I'm honored to have 5 members of Ukraine's parliament here with us tonight. We're not going to go through introductions for each and every one of them. I'll let them give a little background on themselves as well. But this is part of the U.S. Library of Congress's Open World Leadership Program. The group arrived in New Hampshire on Monday. They've been going around the state, meeting with various people, talking about very heavy things. So I hope we are meeting the mark with your trip here, and I hope that we're connecting you with the right people. But we wanted to take an opportunity, as we did last year with our previous delegation of 5 members of Ukraine's parliament, to open it up to the community for a conversation so that we can hear firsthand what life is like in Ukraine these days, what they need in order to continue the fight against Russia, and to eventually, as President Trump recently announced, have the opportunity to expel Russia completely from their borders and restore the whole of their country. So I'll just turn it to you all first. And just, can you tell us a little bit about what Ukraine looks like today? What is the reality?
First of all, thank you for your program and that we're here, for your hospitality. We're first time in New Hampshire and we are glad to be here. Thank you all for your support because we feel it. We feel it in our conversation, we feel it in our meeting. It's very important for us that world democratic country know that you are with us in this war. War with Russia, the big war, continued 3.5 years. And for all this time, a lot of territory of Ukraine not in the safe. Some territory occupied, some territory life in deoccupied, some territory every day attacked by the Russian. Now we hear my colleague from the center of Ukraine. I'm from the Kharkiv region, the second biggest city of Ukraine. My colleague from Lviv. All territory very important now because the front line is the border of the war. The territory in the west, it's very important because a lot of refugees go to this territory and we need to help them. We need to find help, humanitarian help. A lot of buildings destroyed. We need to find the places where they need to live. And the center of Ukraine is a small shelter for a lot of people. When I talk about Ukraine, I want you to give my feeling of the people who elected me. What are they thinking about? First of all, we all want to be in the safe. We want that our children can go to school. We want that our people go to the work. Because safety, children, work, it's 3 very important part of our life. What we are doing? We're trying to build shelters. We're trying to repair homes, flats, and do something that people, refugees, can find a home for them. We thank and help a lot of people who go from Ukraine and now live in Europe, in United States, but they plan to come back when it was be safer than now. It's 3 very important parts of our life. Safety, have own home, and have a job. What I feeling when I'm here? I feel in support. It's very important because your support is the thought of the people that live in the United States. We talk about it. We talk about Ukraine, and your leadership need to know about it. That United States in Ukraine like a brother in this world, like a democratic country. We now a body of Europe. We see us like a family of European country. It's that we're feeling.
Okay, and I'm just pausing so our interpreter can keep up. So one of the big issues, we'll say, is a disagreement or a misunderstanding, or however you want to term it, as to why this war in the past 3 years started. President Putin has many things that he's said to justify his war against your country. I'd like to give you all an opportunity to respond to some of those things that have been said, and to explain to our audience here, both in person and online, your reaction to them.
In 1925, in the prison of Germany, Adolf Hitler started writing Mein Kampf, where he written exactly about the plan that he had for Germany. The takeover of Europe, the conquest of the eastern territories and colonizing them. And then he tried to do exactly that in the Second World War, which is the bloodiest war that the world has ever seen. That whole time, European politicians were pretending that that's not the reality. That's not something to discuss. Mr. Putin has always been extraordinarily clear that he doesn't see Ukraine as a nation, Ukrainians as a people, that he wants to take it over. He published essays. He recorded videos. He invaded our country several times over to try and realize that into practice. My point to you is very simple and very clear. Mr. Putin is doing what he's saying he will do. He wants to destroy the largest country in Europe, that is Ukraine, and consume it whole. And if you know anything about history, to imagine authoritarian leaders stopping at the first conquest or the first taste of any kind of victory is to forget history. The truth is, Mr. Putin is trying to destroy our nation. Our nation, in every battle, in every fight, is pointing very clearly that it will not bow down, that it will stand and fight. And the more people that are fighting, the more people we are losing. We are showing to the world extremely clearly that Ukrainians are here to stay, and Ukraine will persevere. The only question is whether it will take another tragedy like back in the Second World War, Pearl Harbor, to convince America to join. Whether America will continue doing what Churchill has said best, that America would always do the right thing after exhausting all other option. Or whether America will look at the facts on the ground, which are too many to count, of what modern Russia is, and what people who resist it represent, and make a choice to be in this story with another nation who's choosing freedom and liberty, and who is trying to live up to exactly the principles that this very country was built on. And our point is the same. It's not simply about American money, not simply about the American expertise. It is fundamentally about American leadership. America leads the free world. And by standing with the free nations of the world, like Ukraine, America is showing the world that it can still change the world for the better.
So just to follow on to that, many people in the United States have felt that we've done either too much or we've done enough for Ukraine at this point. What would you say to those people who say we've spent millions, billions of dollars, we've sent weapons, we've sent munitions. What more do you want us to do for you?
The real of the time that war cost a lot. And Russia is a big country with more than 140 million of people. They have a lot of money for this war. We don't start this war. We defend our territory. We have a budget of a defend our territory. You need to understand it. It's very important. All the money that Ukraine have, we spend for our army, we spend for ammunition, we spend for our weapon, and only our partners in United States, in European country, help us to stay in this war. Of course, if we haven't got enough resources, Ukraine fall. Like a country, like a border of Europe fall. That's why what we want. I am like Ukrainians. I want to live. I want to be my future, the future of my family, of my children in Ukraine. That's why we stay with our army. We stay in our parliament for 3.5 years and do our best what we can to defend our territory. Russians do not plan to stop. They continue the war. They can talk about a lot of things, but they talk about one and do another things in the front line, and we see it. What we expect from our partners, to stay with us, to stay with Europe, to stay with a country that, the democratic country. We see that world have some separation. Democratic country stay together, but other country united too. They help each other. They trade with each other. We have packages.
And sorry, just to clarify, when
Yeah.
you say other countries, you mean China,
Yes, of
Russia,
course. We speak,
North Korea,
we speak only
Iran.
about, of course, we speak only about the partners, public partners of Russia who help openly for Russia in this war. About the drones like Iran, about the trade with oil, without trade with Russia in a public that we see. That's why we expect that European country, United States, stay with us and help with us with resources you can. You have the maybe best weapons in the world. We need it. You have the best system of PPO. We need it because if we haven't have the system, we couldn't protect our strategic territory, strategic infrastructure. We live in a we live sometime without electricity, without water. Really, it's very hard if you live in a city, in a big city, and have nothing to use with utilities. It's terrible to be in this situation. That's why we need this help. We need this support from you.
Okay. You mentioned that Russia is obviously much larger than Ukraine, that they have more people, they have more money, they have these partners who are helping them. North Korea, we know, has sent troops to the front lines. And you mentioned Putin is not planning on stopping anytime soon. He's made some very maximalist demands. At what point does Ukraine, or have you already been there? At what point do you start thinking about how this ends? What ways in which Ukraine can work with its partners to bring a satisfactory end, not an end at all costs, but an end that can bring peace to the region?
Let me try and inform you what was happening right before the Russians have invaded the largest country in Europe and started the largest war in Europe's Second World War. For the 8 years prior, we have negotiated with the Russians, trying to figure out exactly a pathway forward. We were elected with the hope that we can try and reason with them. But again, history is the teacher to everything, especially with Russia. Treaties with Russia are not worth the paper they are signed on. It was not said by a Ukrainian, but it was said by those statesmen throughout history who have dealt with Russia and know it too well. And let me remind you, the generation that managed to destroy the Soviet Union with your commitment, with your choices, with your leaders. that Russia understands strength, not weakness. Peace through strength is what led you to truly dawn a new age in which we were all born and for which we're all thankful. The age in which we believe the end of history has happened. That the way to get there is not through imagining that we can give this part of Ukraine, that part of Ukraine, or the other part of Ukraine away. Is to remember what Putin has always said very clearly, that he wants the entirety of Ukraine, and his ambitions go far beyond that. And don't listen to me, read Putin, watch Putin. He has said all this time and time and time again. And honestly, when Tucker Carlson interviews Putin, that's exactly what he's saying. He's not saying anything about any compromise that he wants some peace deal somewhere, some acceptable demands. He is making that play as an imperialist that he is, that he wants to reconstitute whatever he can out of the old adage of Russian Empire. And again, either we live in a world of empires or we live in a world of people making a choice what their future should be. And I firmly believe that in this country, where people have made that choice time and time again, we can speak about the freedom of the people in making their choices the fundamental pillar of the path onwards. There were many scenarios discussed about any kind of peace or ceasefire or deal of any kind, but the central point is the same. The same point that President Zelensky made to President Trump in the White House. We cannot trust the Russians. You cannot trust the Russians. Because what the Russians have always been saying is that they hate you. The way they justify it to their population is they are fighting you in Ukraine. And again, every other dictatorship around the world, the Chinese, the North Koreans, the Iranians, of course, they are looking at what can happen in Ukraine and are measuring up their appetite to that. Because if Russia can do this, why should they not try and carve out pieces of South China Sea, take over Taiwan, make a play in any part of the Middle East? The truth is, again, this is a world of either free nations or dictators. And I'm glad that America has been choosing to stand with the free world. And I hope you, the people who saw how American triumph in the greatest challenge of your generation, dare I say, the Cold War, can help that continue. That the America is the leader of the free world. And it can stand for free nations making free choices.
Okay, I want to bring up an issue that I know is very close to all of your hearts and something that you've had meetings with several great organizations while you're here, the Lantos Foundation for Human Rights and Justice, the Fakori Foundation, and that's the issue of the abduction of several thousand children from your country. I've heard a number of different numbers put out there. Can you guys clarify what's going on with that? How many children have been taken? Where have they been taken? Why have they been taken? And what we as an international community can and should be doing about that?
In the first day of the big war, there are a lot of territory of Ukraine was occupied. People live in this territory. It was just a life as a children. They stay in this territory, and a lot of these children now stolen, kidnapped from our territory of Ukraine. It's Ukrainians from Ukrainian families with the passports. It's our children, and now they stay in the territory of Russia. How many children is it? We have a digit of children that we can identify. We know about it. It's about 20,000 of children. Really, this digit can be more. We have about 35,000 maybe children all over or Russia or occupied territory or else territory where they kidnapped. Their names and surnames can be changed. They live in different families all over the territory of Russia. And Russia don't get us information about these children. We don't know about it. That's why we try to unite it with our partners to find, to identify these children, to find where it is. What's our plan? We start it's not a project, we start the united of the countries that try to identify if the children not in the territory of Russia, and we can identify, we can come these children back. For today, by our partners, more than 1,000 children come back to Ukraine. We thank our partners about it because they work in this process, and it's very important for us. I want you to understand one very important. It is Ukrainian children that live in Ukraine before war, that have Ukrainian passport. Some of them have families. Some of them, yes, they haven't got families because we understand the reason can be difficult in different situations. That's why it's Ukrainian children, and we want to come it back. And we speak about it. I thank you, my President Volodymyr Zelensky and his First Lady Elena Zelenska. They are top speaker about this question. They ask about it with the leaders of the world. And we hope that our children come back to Ukrainian territory and be with us in our big family of our, with our families that live and can help these children to be with them if they haven't got parents before war.
Okay. So, in terms of the international response to this, are there things that you think the global community can do to help bring these children back, or is it just they have been taken, and the likelihood of Putin caving to any pressure, as was discussed earlier, it's sort of lost?
I sure we need to act. We have 18 packages of sanctions to Russia that united European Union country, United States, and we thank you about it. I hope that sanctions can act, yes, not fast. It's needed time to sanction work. But the question of children can be in the top position of interest of our country. That's why we talk about it. That's why we plan and speak with our partners about new sanctions about oil, sanctions about the float of ships with black flags in the sea. We speak about our country that trade with Russia, and I think it can give a result about it, because children is very important and top theme of our position in a foreign position, in the foreign meetings that we have in the world, in USA, and you see it from the last meeting with Melania Trump and Elena Zelenska, and what we speak in international field.
I'm going to bring in some audience questions here in a moment. I'll remind our in-person audience, you can scan the code on that TV. It'll take you to the Slido app, or see Anise in the back, and you can write a question for her. So my last question before we bring in audience questions, and online as well, go to slido.com. Information's on our website. We know that this has been a very challenging, difficult, scary time for your country. But life goes on. Can you tell us any positive stories about the resilience of the people of Ukraine during this extremely difficult time to continue to push your country forward?
First of all, maybe returning to the very first question about the reasons. I can tell you that, have you ever think why actually Chikatilo have murdered so many victims of him? We never know the reasons of that, why he just started this. But if we're talking about our life now, it's just like, it looks like we are trying to live two lives during the one day. So during the day, it's, if we are not on frontline, actually, we're trying to live normal life. Go to work, go to school, go to kindergarten. But after 8, 9 p.m., it started awful because actually, usually, they're trying to attack us during the night. And till 6, 5 a.m. So no sleep, nothing. You're scared. Your children are scared. So at 6, it's like everything they stopped. So and you need to go to work and again trying to live normal life. Despite on everything, our guys inside, our people inside, are trying to do their best to develop infrastructure, to develop a lot of investitions in Ukraine, to collect some new partners to Ukraine, to find some ways to develop cities also. So, and actually we have some success in so many spheres in Ukraine, despite on everything again. And I know that there are a lot of foreign investors are trying to come to Ukraine, to open their offices in Ukraine, to open some new manufacturers in Ukraine, because they know for sure that after all, after our victory, we will be really like a huge country, and we have a lot of experience now in so many spheres. And I'm pretty sure that so many people actually are believing in us. And maybe because of this, we are so like resistant now. We are trying to stand for the best.
So we've got some great questions coming in. Let me just read through and make sure. Okay, so one of the questions that has come in is, can each of you quantify the degree of public support in each of your respective districts? We're not hearing anything about that question. So basically, in the districts, in the places that you represent, what level of support do they have to continue this fight?
Of course, we do a lot like a deputy in the territory where we are elected. A half of the parliament have districts all over the Ukraine. I said that some of territory in frontline territory, it's about our soldiers, it's about our territory that people go to another territory. It's a lot of refugees that come from the one territory to another town, cities, and find the homes. We like a deputy do a lot in this territory. We help people to connect about humanitarian help, about finding some social help, but our main idea to find the money to have social needs for these people, because they are in danger and we need to do the best that we can in this territory. My colleague represents Lviv. Lviv, it is a very big hub. He do a lot of job in Lviv to have this humanitarian help, and logistics is all over the Ukraine. A lot of people came to Lviv now. A lot of businesses came to Lviv. A lot of taxis go to Lviv. That's why Lviv became the city, the role city in the medicine cluster. They built a very big rehabilitation center. They help a lot of people in Ukraine because Russia bombed a lot of medicine in Ukraine. Russia bombed a lot of infrastructure in Ukraine. That's why all deputy work in the district in his role that we can. The center of Ukraine, it is rather safe territory where a lot of farmers, where a lot of businesses stay for this time. They try to do the best to pay taxes in our country because we need this money to our army. That's why it's our own role, all of us who is majority in Ukraine.
I would like to add a few words. And the question is how much we're supported by our constituents.
машину військову,
We managed to stop the Russian war machine, and our president emphasized this more than once.
яку боявся весь світ насправді.
You know, the whole world used to be scared of the Russian war machine.
Лише завдяки людям, які об'єдналися,
And only due to the efforts of our people who managed to unite in this fight.
навколо якраз країни, навколо свого майбутнього в
What,
країні.
what united us all is the dream of our future, the dream of our statehood.
І навіть в перші місяці війни був такий випадок дуже цікавий, в перші тижні війни навіть, коли в Києві залетів безпілотник і літня жінка зі свого вікна збила його банкою консервації. Не знаю,
In the first weeks of war, we had a very telling story when there was a drone that was like falling in the residential area of Kyiv, and an elderly woman managed to shoot it down by throwing a jar of pickles at it.
So are you asking for more pickle jars?
Так, Україні необхідно більше консерватів.
Хотів би
Давай.
так само хотів би доповнити колег. Я з Львова, з Львівщини. І
I come from the west of Ukraine, from Lviv region.
в моєму регіоні воює, захищає нас біля 10 бригад. Я маю честь опікуватись однією.
There were 10 military brigades that were created in my part of the country, and I tried to sponsor one of them.
Я намагаюсь достукатися, віднайти небайдужих людей серед бізнесу, серед підприємців.
I'm trying to find people who are indifferent in business community, first of all,
Ми безпосередньо стараємося брати запити в бригади і їх, як кажуть, оплатити, закрити, знайти найкраще рішення, щоб дати хлопцям цю зброю, цей патрон.
we learn about the needs of our people who are serving in the armed forces, and we do everything we can to find weapons, to find technologies, to find supplies for them.
За час повномасштабного вторгнення, з часу повномасштабного вторгнення, нам вдалося зібрати на одну львівську бригаду 290 мільйонів гривень.
Це в грошах. So we managed to raise $7 million for our Lviv brigade in hard currency and goods.
Мої друзі, колеги, наш голова області, мери, кожен з них опікується своєю зоною відповідальності. Кожен з них старається і місцевим бюджетом, і підприємцями допомогти своїм.
So all of the elected officials now sponsor certain military units, be it at the level of the region or like county or the city, the mayors of smaller communities. They sponsor different military detachments and units.
Я щомісяця звітую про те, і бачивши звіти, можу вам сказати, що підтримка бригад лише зростає.
And I look at the support of the people, and I try to analyze the statistics that come in monthly, and the support of the population is growing with each and every passing month.
Дякую.
Before we get accused for politicians dodge, the reality is in Ukraine, by every pollen measurement, the Ukrainian nation doesn't want to submit to Russian ambitions on itself. The reality is, by every pollen measurement, from the first moments of the war to now, Ukrainians are willing to stand up and fight. Of course, devil's in the details, and when you make that question and multiply the details and different parts of the question, the answers become varied, but the reality is the same. When you ask Ukrainians, you'll meet, and we met some Ukrainian diaspora that live with you here in New Hampshire. They will tell you their perspective. It's very clear that they don't become a part of Russia. And again, that is why the support is there, was there, and will be there.
Great, thank you. So I'll hit you with the easy question first, and then we'll follow up with a bit more difficult one. So we have a question here, pretty simple. How many members in your parliament?
450 by constitution, but again, because the Ukraine has been first invaded in 2014, and in various waves, there were less members of parliament elected in our elections in 2019. So, and with the war starting, it has changed as well. So my colleague was saying
423 when we were elected.
423.
423 when we were elected, but now we have 398.
Because some have died, some have fled, some have betrayed the country. But again, when you look at the percentages, it still shows to you the reality of a majority of government, parliament, and the nation stands for the idea of independent, free, sovereign Ukraine.
Well, that brings up a new or a good question or a good follow-in. And this person who asked this question wanted to preface that they ask this as a friend of Ukraine. But can you please discuss the history of corruption by some members of the Ukraine parliament and the July law that shut down 2 anti-corruption agencies and the August law to restore those agencies?
It's okay.
No. My colleague wants me to start. I'll start with, I'm a member of Foreign Affairs Committee. So anti-corruption comes to me in terms of public discussion. One of the most profound laws that we passed was a law on whistleblowers. Not just the protection of whistleblowers, mind you, enticement of whistleblowers, making a point that government shall try to pay a chunk of that sum they discover is getting stolen back to the whistleblower. So the reality is we are trying to do everything to encourage in every single way the battle against corruption to be multiplied. My colleague comes from Anti-Corruption Committee originally, and he has much more to say about our long story with anti-corruption.
When I got to the parliament, I was a member of Anti-Corruption Committee, and from the first day of our parliament life, our anti-corruption infrastructure doesn't work rather good. There is some problem, and we fix it. They come to our committee with their propositional, and we do all we have, what we have the best, and we vote it in our parliament. We have 4 organizations that work within all anti-corruption organ. It's about declaration, it's about investigation, it's about judge, it's about our prosecutor, special prosecutor. Effective anti-corruption or not is a very big question. Can we ask, if we listen about corruption, investigating about anti-corruption, effective or not? How can we understand what's the result of this big infrastructure? How can we feel it? How many people in a jail? That's why it is a lot of question. We have anti-corruption infrastructure in Europe. And in Europe, in every country, they choose their model of control this organization or be attached to this organization. In Ukraine, it is maximum, I can say that is very good reforms that we do it in 2019 and in 2020. In the summer of this year, you listen some information about we can say about it, yes, about Russian that work in different places with the agentur net. Afraid we are about it? Of course. I hope, I know that in different country it can be the same. That's why what we want to do, we want to defend our system, and we try to do it. But we came to parliament with our president, and people vote for us. And of course, when we see that these young guys go to the street and said, no, we want to come back how it be before the voting of July, what we do? We listen them. We sit with this organization and speak about the situation with anti-corruption reform. We ask what you need to be effective, what you wait from the parliament, what you wait from the other organization with who you do this investigation. And this process is working now. It's continuous. It's not a point of this question. We want that system will effective. That's all.
A follow-on to that, we have a question here asking about, are there any legislators that support Russia in your parliament today? And I would add to this, what is the overall feeling of the other legislators, if there are?
On every single consequential vote to support the army, to have the martial law, to start mobilization, all the measures that are required for a nation to resist an aggressor, you had an overwhelming, everyone in the parliament that was present was voting yes. There certainly are traitors. We have our Benedict Arnolds in Ukraine, but the thing of Benedict Arnold and the Ukrainian traitors is they went to the country they betrayed their nation to. And as Benedict Arnold went to live in Britain, so Benedict Arnolds went to live in Moscow, and they are there. And sadly, because there was no election from the moment the war has started, there was no chance to vote them out. But we deprived them of the mandate in the parliament, but there are still, unfortunately, in every nation, those rotten apples.
So we have a question here that says, this has been described as Putin's war. Putin will not be in power forever. Do you think the Russian leader that comes after him will desire peace?
Знаєте, трошки сьогодні в Європі, в Європі Друга світова війна, яка на території Європи відбувалася, вона відбувалася 80 років назад. Напевно, тут з присутніх ніхто її не пережив. Можливо, хтось народився під час цих років, але точно не переживав.
The last large war in Europe, the Second World War, happened 80 years ago. I guess everybody in this audience were born after it.
Сьогодні Україна на території Європи переживає, тому що слухати перекази, чути, дивитись кіно, документальне, художнє – це одне. А переживати – це все. Те, що зараз переживає Україна, це абсолютно інше.
So we know about that war from stories, from movies, from documentaries. In Ukraine, we're living this war today.
І нам, українцям, абсолютно все рівно, хто в Росії президент. Чи Путін,
In reality, we don't care who the Russian president is, Putin or somebody else.
ми обрали свій шлях, і ми вперше в Ремпені, і почули ваш девіз, те, що ваші предки, коли сказали, те, що вам близьке жити вільними або померти.
We embarked on our own path, which is very well reflected in your own slogan, live free or die. This is our choice.
Повірте, що сьогодні Україна, як громадяни України, як ніхто, розуміє ці слова і ціну, яку платить за свій вибір. Тому нам все рівно, чи Путін, чи не Путін, ми хочемо жити вільно в своїй країні.
We live this slogan every day in Ukraine. We don't care whether it's Mr. Putin or somebody else. We know our goal, we know what we're striving for, period.
Very first days, the early beginning of this full invasion, we were thinking that it's just because of Putin or his closest guys. But unfortunately, it's not only about him. It's because of brainwashed, maybe, I don't know. But a lot of people in Russia think absolutely the same as him. And actually, if we will pay some attention for some news from there or for some videos from there, they are actually mostly think that this is like silent war. And in church, they are praying for killing us and that we all will be murdered. And they are praying to God about it. So I'm not sure that... so for our peace, actually, we need some strong guarantees. Because if Putin will die or somebody else will die there, I don't know, it will not guarantee our peace. Only states, democratic world, European partners can guarantee us that we will live our lives in our independent country.
But the blessed reality of the regimes like they have in Russia, that autocracy, it's vertical to its bone. And when the central figure and the top of that hierarchy is taken away, dies, anything else, the chaos in that system, that certainly helps. So as much as we realize that it's far more than just a question of Putin, we hope for his death.
Okay, we've got a good question here, wondering what is happening in the occupied areas today. Is there any sort of insurgency ongoing?
I can tell because I'm originally from occupied territory now, and it was occupied in 2014. So what they do now, actually they're trying to relocate Russian people from Russia to these territories. They are trying to pay them some money or just bring them some apartments to live there. And actually it makes a little bit easier for propaganda to make some videos about that, because they can tell to video to some journalists what they need to tell about this, so that they were afraid or something and then Putin saved them, something like this, blah blah blah. Actually it's so pity because Donetsk city, the big one, I'm pretty sure that you know about it. It was super nice city. It was like we have huge stadium arena where Beyonce and Rihanna actually performed. We has lots of parks there. It was so clear. It was so nice. And now it looks like awful village actually. I mean, they have no water. They have no electricity. They have water actually from 6 a.m. till 7 a.m. In the morning, and then 1 hour more in the evening, in lucky days. So it's absolutely awful thing, and they're trying to destroy everything that we have built for many years. On the Mariupol is also the same example, because it was so nice city with good infrastructure, with good roads, with everything for kids, but now it's absolutely destroyed one. And I saw a few days ago, I saw a video on internet, like one guy, our guy, is trying to interview the Russians through like video chat, Russian video chat, just to know the truth. And he was talking to one guy from Mariupol, and he was relocated from Novosibirsk or something like this. And he was like, this Russian guy who was like, he was telling something like this: okay, now I'm owner of this apartment, this is mine. And our guy was asking, okay, and how do you get this? How did you get this? And he was like, It doesn't matter. It's just mine now. So I have all documents, and I mean that some time ago there used to live for some guys from Ukraine, and maybe now they're. I'm praying that they are alive, but maybe they are just murdered somewhere in Mariupol or somewhere else. So they're trying to relocate Russians there to make this picture like they are actually truly trying to defend speak Russians there. So
I told you another story about a town in Kharkiv region. It's called Volchansk. Volchansk was occupied in the first day of the war. Russian thinks that we will be with the flags, invite them, cook them, help them, but it's not. In 2022, we deoccupied this territory. I was in this territory in the next day of this deoccupation. The people that live, they be happy. I cannot, it's a feeling now, me. I cannot introduce you how they will be happy, how they are happy to see the Ukrainian soldiers. We came with the water, with the humanitarian help, with the food, with the police, with our army. It's amazingly feeling. We have a book about it, how we go to Volchansk with the photos. But it's a repeated, but Russian go the second time to Volchansk. They know that we won't wait them with the flags, and they destroy it at all. We don't know how looks this building only in drone. It's a ruin, it's not a building. We haven't nothing on this territory. We know just the streets and nothing else. What how occupied territory now?
And if I can tell you of the horror of all that we find in the parts of Ukraine that we occupy, Vovchansk is just one story, but the reality of the mass graves the Russians are leaving behind shows what happens. Because in these mass graves, it's not the extreme patriots of Ukraine that are buried there. It's social activists, it's the animal rights activists. These are writers who wrote children's books in Ukrainian. Russians want to uproot Ukrainian nation now, and they are making no secret about that. They have done this in every part of Ukraine they occupy. They kill every vestige of possible resistance to them. And the reality is that is why for us, live free or die isn't just a slogan, it's the reality. We, all of us, are on Russian sanctions lists. We know that we are on some list or the other list. But we are seeing when Russians occupy Ukraine that they kill not the obvious targets such as ourselves. They kill people who show any kind of disagreement or resistance.
We continue fight for Volchansk. We continue to fight for frontline territory of the city. And we hope that example of Volchansk, it was the Ukrainian territory, it was the Kharkiv region, it was the territory in our border.
Okay. So I know this is a very difficult time for your people, your country, for you as well, personally. But I want to ask, and I hope we can find some good answers here. Can you highlight one, maybe two, a handful of really successful things that the Ukrainian people are very proud of in terms of their response to this? I mean, we've seen great efforts in the sea drone space. We've seen great efforts in, pushing into Russia for taking and holding territory. So what do you guys see as some of the successes and the good stories that you can tell about your experiences?
I'm really sorry for this answer, but we are still alive. is really our success. Yeah. So actually, everything that we do now in our country, it's maybe it sounds like so easy that you can wake and then go to some wake up during the night and then go to some shelter with your kids, with your dogs, with everything, and then just waiting until the morning if you will be alive actually. But it's not, and everything that we do, I don't want to be so like. Як сказати, тщеславною. I don't want to be so vain, but actually, yes, it's hard work to stay there alive, because Putin and his troops, they are trying to kill us every day, every hour, every minute. So I don't know, but actually, yeah, maybe Rostislav will tell you a little bit more about drones and some army things.
Ви знаєте, напевно, більше хочеться почути якоїсь там статистики, цифр і результатів, так?
Perhaps, you expect us to bring more statistics or speak about some very specific outcomes.
А я вам скажу дуже коротко. Ми пишаємося найкращими представниками і представницями нашої країни.
But let me be brief. We're very proud of our best Ukrainian men and women.
Це наші захисники. І коли ти приїжджаєш
And I talk about our defenders. And when you visit them,
коли ти приїжджаєш до них в гості, а я стараюсь кожного місця приїжджати до них і відверто намагаюся десь залишитись з ними, послухати їх, просто навіть вислухати.
and
Це важливо.
I try to visit them at least once a month. And for me, it is very important to stay with them for some time and to listen to them, what they think about their plans or whatever they want to do in the future.
Повірте, ми з ними бували в різних ситуаціях, маємо різний досвід, і навіть в тому числі, перебуваючи тут, скажу і ще раз дякую за вашу американську зброю, бо я навіть знаю, що таке засинати під звуки Хаймерсу.
And I try to learn from their experience, and I try to listen to the sounds that they are listening to. And coming to the United States now, I can tell you, I can say thank you, because I know the sound of HIMARS, your rockets that help to protect us.
І коли ти запитуєшся в них, буквально в діалозі, так, за що ми воюємо?
And when you ask them, what are we fighting for?
І відповідь у всіх одна.
They all answer the same.
За наше майбутнє.
We fight for our future.
Ви знаєте, кожен, напевно, собі уявляє, яке є наше майбутнє.
Of course, everybody has her own perception of future,
А у них відповідь одна.
but the answer is the same anyway.
Це наші діти.
We fight for our children.
Дякую.
Thank you.
Це просто дуже влучно Ростислав підмітив, що чим гордитесь, що це в першу чергу люди, і це не просто слова. Коли почалась війна у 2014 році, я думаю, чули всі оборона Донецького аеропорту.
Rostislav worded it real well, and I inevitably start thinking about the defense of the airport in Donetsk back in 2014.
І не українці, не ми самі там назвали наших захисників, наших військових кіборгами. Їх назвали військовослужбовці Збройних сил Російської Федерації.
And those were Russians, not even Ukrainian people or Ukrainian military, who called those defenders cyborgs or, some characters from, I don't know, fairy tales. Not our fairy tales, not of our generation, but of that, you know, something hero transformers, you know, even bigger than that.
Тому що саме термінал, і потім було сказано в цьому світі, в принципі, що більше 300, оборона йшла більше 300 днів. І було сказано, люди витримали, не витримав бетон, впав.
And they managed to defend this airport for 300 days. And amazingly, you know, people survived. The concrete the airport was built of did not.
І сьогодні наші військовослужбовці, наші Збройні сили продовжують це підтверджувати. На жаль, на полі бою дуже різниця сила, як в боєприпасах, які використовуються, це 1 до 10.
And our military personnel managed to prove it today in battles when they are outnumbered, when Russians have 10 times more ammunition and weaponry.
Це і дрони 1 до 15, також не в нашу сторону. Це і людський ресурс, яка Росія витрачає як гарматне м'ясо, тому що там більше мільйона вже полягло.
The same is true about drones. Russia has about 15 times more drones, but they use their people as cannon fodder. You know, by now, Russia, about over 1 million Russians have died in this war.
І коли запитали, чи є приклади, чи гордимось, Дар'я правильно сказала, ми вільні. Завдяки цим неймовірним зусиллям, цій самопожертві, Україна до сих пір вільна.
But we remain free and independent due to this sacrifice, which is truly amazing.
Ukrainian said, unbroken nation.
All right, I think we're going to do 2 more questions here, just looking at the time. The first one is going to be, what is the biggest divide that members of parliament face today in Ukraine, and to what extent is it a concerning issue, or is it just sort of on the margins?
The truth is, in the parliament right now, the biggest divide is on the question of discipline. Those who miss the parliamentary assemblies, those who come to parliamentary assemblies. Truth is, when you look at the votes, when you look at different parts of the parliament coming together, it's very clear that the parliament is united. And this opposition government, it is utterly irrelevant. The point is the same. The battle is for all of our rights. And if we lose, we all lose in that sense. And the truth of the matter is, you can discuss the understanding of the government was elected at point, whether we're doing a good enough job or not. But the truth is, democratic dialogue never stopped. Democratic dialogue has always continued with a passion, and in every single meeting, Ukraine is debating all the notions that we hold dear. But again, as long as the front line holds, we can do that free.
And I would imagine that your end goal for all members of parliament remains the same, which is to defend the homeland and eject the invaders. Is that a fair assessment?
Is to have elections. Is our goal is to finally let the war go and finally have the peace for the Ukrainians to choose whatever they want to choose for their future. All of the polls are irrelevant because in the end of the day, that's exactly the question. What shall the finish be? And that will decide what people will vote for.
Okay. So the final question I have for you that came in that I think I've kind of been back pocketing because I think it's a good one to end on is, Do you have any messages for the hundreds of Ukrainians who are living here in New Hampshire at this point in time? And I would actually expand that out to anyone who is interested in being involved, being engaged, and better understanding your country.
Truth is, as we were meeting Ukrainian organizations today, as we were hearing about their work, as we were hearing about their tireless attempt to provide everything that we need and find partners in Ukraine, in different military units, I realized that the central message is thank you. The truth is, nothing is enough, nothing is sufficient. This magnitude of a challenge and the reality of the damage that is caused every day by destruction of all kinds is such that it is hard to truly ever be finished with this horror. Alas, you are trying to help us go through this and be better for it. So thank you is the central message, and thank you is the message we'll be repeating always.
All right, well, and thank you to all of you for joining us here tonight, for taking the time at a very difficult time in your country's history, for coming to the United States to share your stories, to share your realities, and to be a part of this exchange. We really appreciate it. Thank you to the audience for joining us here tonight, both in person and online. I appreciate your wonderful questions. I appreciate your ability to push us and to push our friends here to answer some of the tough questions. We hope to see many of you on Sunday in Henniker. There's more information on our website. We're having a little welcome reception as we say goodbye to our friends. So maybe a goodbye session up in Henniker. Check it out. Register online. More information there. And thank you all. Enjoy your night.
Thank you.